Hey, hey, it's Jordan reporting from Let's Dig Into That, and today is special. Milestone moment, people. Today, our 12th episode, marks the auspicious occasion of hosting our first guest. We are just getting started at Let's Dig Into That and cannot wait to kick off conversations with experts, dreamers, innovative thinkers, champions of the do-over and the let's try that again. But there is only one first. And the first guest we'd like to welcome to the couch is Dr. Patty Templeton Smith. Hailing from Central Missouri, Dr. Smith grew up in a large family of farmers, number 9 of 11, and from a very early age, it was evident that Dr. Smith's home was in the classroom. After receiving her degree in elementary education from the University of Missouri in Columbia, this multitasking smart cookie continued her charge, earning her doctoral degree while working as a district superintendent. Dr. Smith has taught at the elementary, secondary, and university levels, and while Dr. Smith's career was predominantly in the public school system, she has spent the past 10 years consulting for a French immersion charter school in the Kansas City area, where she also serves as a Missouri hearing officer. Now, this is all well, nice, and good, as Dr. Smith has built an honorable career serving at the needs of the child. But the multitudes of this woman, her dynamic and diverse passions, are what drew us to entice her with an invitation. As a Science Olympiad sponsor and founder of the Missouri Young Astronauts program, Dr. Smith has inspired generations of creative learners. As one of the final teacher candidates for NASA's 1986 Challenger expedition, Dr. Smith holds deep ties with National Aerospace and the space program. A dreamer, a traveler, and one hell of a ball player, Dr. Smith, clocking in at 5'2" and stacked with degrees and limitless adventure. Listeners and learners, please allow me to introduce my mom, Peeba.
Welcome back to the Let's Dig Into That podcast. We are so appreciative that you're joining us today because we have our very first guest. Dr. Patty Smith is here with us. How are you today?
I am great, thank you.
In the house!
And privileged to be here. I mean, who doesn't like to be number one at everything? But number one at this. I have so enjoyed listening to the podcast. And these guys, oh my, I only birthed one, but I can claim the other one as well. So no, I'm so happy to be here, and this is going to be fun.
Well, I should have, I can't believe your competitive nature somehow slipped through the cracks.
Oh, yeah.
So being the first was the only option.
Oh, yeah. One of 11 children, first is great. Yes.
We have a winner.
Well, it's no secret that you are family. How would you like us to ask you questions? Dr. Smith, Patty, Peeba?
Oh, well, Peeba's great. Dr. Smith is way too formal. Patty's fine. But since it's just the three of us, I think I'll get that you're talking to me. But yeah, let's just, oh, you know what let's do? Let's dig into that right now.
There it is.
Yeah.
So to kick this all off, this was hard to prep for because you have so many specialties and you are so vast in what you provide and what you're an expert in. But what felt most timely was currently, we're facing an administration change, and every 4 years we go through this. And as an educator, I'm curious where you see the future of education going, from the federal level down to state level. So I'm hoping we can just jump into it. How do you see the future of education going in our country?
That's a good question. I'm glad he's asking about the future since they were both kind enough not to mention my age. But I've been in education for a few years, and I have seen many, many changes in administration and in policy and philosophy and all of the above. I think what I see now happening is we are into the era where there's a great deal more of parent choice, particularly in K-12 administration and education of younger children. And I think that came from the dissatisfaction with public schools. And as many of the listeners, I hope, know, that's where the majority of our kids were always served, in public schools. And I think now we have public schools, private schools, charter schools, public charter schools, so many options for parents. And what I've read is the new education secretary, if she's confirmed, will support parent choice. And I think in some realms that's great if you're in an area where you have many choices, but you're not always that parent that has that choice. Right. So I think we have to, remind ourselves that although we're dealing at the federal level, education is truly a function of the state. And that's what the public schools and the private schools have to follow, and the charter schools when they are, defining what they want to do and how they want to serve the kids in their building.
And that power of choice goes beyond my child will attend the public school provided, or I would make the choice to go to private. And now you're saying we have so many more options that what if there is a flock to this one particular, the charter public school, for example, that everyone wants to be there? Is there difficulty in that gap?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I'll use the school that I'm consulting with right now. I finished what I call graduated from my many years in public education and went to consult with a French immersion charter school in Kansas City, Missouri. And it was formed because the parents were dissatisfied with the Kansas City, Missouri public school settings and the education their kids were getting. So a group of parents got together and formed this school. That was their choice. They developed a charter, and at that time they had to be sponsored by a university. So they went through all the steps. But basically, the parents chose to start this school. What parent choice might be is already schools that are established, and say you have, 5 or 6 in your area. Which one would you like to go to? Well, what if all the parents want to go to this one? Or they don't, and they don't want to go to any of them, and they choose to go to private, then how do we get state funding for all of the students that are going to this building? So there are lots of ins and outs. But this particular school that I'm involved with, you have to get in kindergarten through a lottery, basically. So not everybody, even that chooses to go there, can.
It's the opportunity.
Because there's just so many things that go into it. And it's very unique, as some of our new schools are, like, this school is all K through 8 is all French all day, except for 30 minutes of English, which kind of makes sense then why you would come in kindergarten. It's not for everyone, but a lot of parents choose that, and a lot of them chose in this area because they thought the curriculum would be more enhanced and it was safer. So that goes into parent choice as well.
That is so interesting, and I want to take it back to one thing that you said, because it's something I don't personally understand. And I hear these political ads saying that they're going to do away with the federal education system, and that sounds terrifying to me. When you hear that, what does that make you think?
Well, actually, that's not as scary to me because, and I'm going to use an example of in 1976, the federal law enacted Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and it was a federal law, but it's interpreted by the states. And education is actually a function of the state, so we have to follow federal law, but we also have to follow state compliance. So not a lot of funding comes from the federal level. Most of it comes from the state level. So that doesn't scare me as much because states already have some interpretations. The federal laws just give us more guidelines that we must follow.
More oversight at the federal level.
Yes, yeah, wow. More oversight, yeah.
So not as scary.
Not as scary for me. I think it's good, particularly if the law I referenced was, with students with disability. Everyone deserves a free, appropriate public education. So we are mandated to do that at the state level, but it is in fact a federal law, and then we have to comply in the state to do that. But I think it is interesting to see what we are teaching at the university level are teachers, because I know all of you've heard that there's a teacher shortage, and I understand why. And I don't think it's always about salary, although I know that's a big reason. But I think it's gotten very complicated to be in education, and because there are a great deal more requirements, curriculum-wise, and state requirements and different things, and so teachers aren't so much allowed that teachable moment that maybe 20 years ago they would have been given. So
I think the freedoms in the classroom over your time in education have evolved pretty significantly.
Yeah, I think so. I think what I see, or when I talk to the teachers, even, I deal with a lot of teachers from foreign countries that have come in and they don't understand all of the laws and the statutes and things we have to follow, but they really have struggle with, why do I have to follow this certain curriculum in math? why does everyone have to teach this way in math when I just want to teach the math that I taught in France or Cameroon or wherever I happen to be from? But there are a lot of things that, so there's, I don't want to call it bureaucracy, but there are issues of compliance, and that teachers are going, oh my goodness, I just want to teach these pretty little kindergartners, the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, and that's not always the case now.
So back to your teachable moment opportunity. Are you feeling there's too much regulation, that there's not enough time in the day? We have to do all the to-do stuff. We want to get back to the fun stuff.
You know what? I think I've heard that so many times. There's just not enough time to do all of the things that you have to do as a teacher. And I think COVID really brought that home for teachers. And teachers were, I think, probably got a little higher cred, if you would, because of, the parents then saw what they had to go through. But I think that's part of teaching, and we may have gotten off our subject here, but I think, I was thinking about earlier about the different university levels that I've taught classes. And one of the classes you have to take to get a teaching certification in the state of Missouri is Educating the Exceptional Child. Now, if I taught that at a private university, the audience of students, these college students, would go, now, what are you talking about?
Education of the Exceptional Child was the name of the course?
Yeah, Educating the Exceptional Child, because this would be a more a group of private school kids that really didn't see that or deal with that in the public school setting. Whereas another school, and I might even be dealing, in that same class or aerospace education or whatever, they would say, hey, Dr. Smith, is there a study guide? Is there a study guide for this program? And of course, me, being at this, I'm going, hey, you're in college. No study guide, suck it up. You're in college. Let's get going, But they were used to being accommodated, getting accommodations and different things. So, it's kind of a balance there. But I think that education, back to the original start of the podcast, will always be changing and evolving. But what we won't get in today, because it still freaks me out, is to talk about how AI is going to affect our educational system.
There's a topic.
Yeah, there is a topic. And I get asked already from teachers, like, what do I do if a student uses AI to do their term paper and stuff? And so I go, talk to your principal. That's talk to your principal. Yeah, I don't need that kind of grief in my day. I'm just doing the legal stuff. But I think education will continue to evolve as long as we have education and we're not all homeschooled.
Right. Man, that's so incredibly interesting to hear your take on federal, state, and all that kind of things. But what I'm really interested in right now is more about you. You have taught at pretty much every level of education. Is there one thing that you did that you think is maybe the most impactful or the most important part of your career?
You mean other than raising this one to my right here? Yeah.
Beautiful genius. Made a beautiful genius.
Yeah. The most impactful. Ooh, wow.
From elementary, that's true. Yeah. Like these cute little second grade faces to these punks at university level.
That's go. Yeah, good one. Yeah. No, wow. Most impactful. I think that when I decided, and my administrator encouraged me to become a principal, I did it because I thought I could reach more kids. And I was fortunate enough, again, to be involved with like space and NASA and the Young Astronaut Program and all that. And I remember how real, that moment was. Like the most impactful time is when I was a teacher was when I had my class prepared for lessons in space. And I had them, we were doing Krista McGullough, classes with, her son's class and everything. And then I prepared them everything but for what happened. But what came after that was a real learning experience, because we could write about and talk about and say how this happened, why this happened, what do we do? And, and there was a level of hope. That's the beauty of young kids. There's this level of hope. So I felt I was impactful then because they knew it. Boy, they knew it.
They were so vested in the entire
I will never, ever forget this young kid, Travis. And I said to him one day, tomorrow, we are going to spend the whole morning and maybe even into the afternoon talking about space. And I added some other things about what we're going to do. And up his hand goes. And I said, yes, what is it? He said, do we need to bring a sack lunch?
Yes.
And I thought, oh my
Thinking
God.
ahead.
I said, we've got him. I said,
If
he
this is going to roll into
in
my
it.
afternoon,
Yeah, he is
should
in it.
I
Yeah,
be bringing
yeah.
some
Mhm.
snacks?
Yeah. And at the middle level, I think probably the thing I would say, and I didn't particularly teach at the middle level, but I was an administrator at that level, and is that you don't, you listen to kids, you don't talk at them, you talk with them. I think that's important. And you don't negotiate with middle school kids because it's right, just like terrorists. You don't do it. You just don't do it. No kind of means no. Here is the plan. So I think just, in all levels of education, be consistent, either, elementary through university level. If you say as a leader, if you say tomorrow we're going to wake up and this sky is going to be green and we're going to walk 10 steps out to the door and see it, that's exactly what you do every day.
That sky better be green.
That sky better be green. That sky better be green. So choose your words carefully because they're powerful. But I think that's, the things that I remember most are with the early learners, and just how they can just sponge things up. But I never, ever tire of seeing that light that comes on in an 84-year-old that you take to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, and you put him in this thing that shoots him in the air, and he comes down and his eyes are poking out. He goes, oh, that was scary, but the best time of my life, So you never,
84 years old.
84 years
old. What's
old.
the range of space campers?
About from like 5 to 84. I mean, they were there.
You took from 5 years old to 84.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So, and that was always a learning thing. That was my juice at that time. So if I was excited about it, which is what I would tell, and my doctoral thesis was on the power of motivation. And I think that it's important that we relay that to a kid. You find your passion and you build on that. You build on that regardless of the age. And again, I'm sitting here with these two, and the one to the right,
that would be me.
That would be me. That would be her. Yeah. She wrote when she was little, and I knew that that's where we would come to this point. J.T. I've just met, but I can see them, doing this, together, and you can hear and see the passion, that they're using and stuff. So that's awesome. And I tend to be too wordy. What was the question? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I do. You brought up an interesting point there with in a position of leadership with this consistency with children. That the two youths in this room are really exceptional about positive reinforcement. The dog mama, am pretty quick trigger on the let me tell you what you're doing wrong. And so with that consistency, any insights on that positive, negative reinforcement?
Oh my gosh, yeah. This is one thing that I sure wish I knew when I was very young and becoming a teacher and a parent and everything. And I can't take credit for it. It was Rick Lavoie, who was kind of the master of all students learning. And he's from Boston. He has this wonderful accent. And he taught me, and I was fortunate enough to get to meet him one time, and he taught me that negative reinforcement stops behavior, but only positive changes it. And when we apply that even to our adult lives, we know it's true. I mean,
it's 100% true, and I'm not sure everyone even understands that. It stops the behavior in the moment, but it doesn't change it moving forward. That is so crucial to make sure that everyone could understand.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so what would you be willing to give us an example of just a simple negative reinforcement? So somebody's coloring on the wall.
Someone's coloring on the wall.
It might be me.
Yeah, it might have been you. Yeah. And what I had said was, okay, we don't, you can set lines. We don't color on the wall. That stopped it. But here's where we can. And that doesn't mean you let your kids go wild, but it means that you let them be creative enough to know that this is what I really want to do. And you lead them through to this is okay to express yourself, but we're going to do it in this way.
Where we can do it in the best environment.
And I think a better example is that if you find, and again, it works all the way through, you find the carrot. Sometimes it's paychecks for people. You find that carrot. What's someone willing to do for this? And to them, that may be a positive reinforcement or planning for a vacation or something. But when that scale, when you step on, and it doesn't say what you want, you go, oh, I can't believe, you beat yourself up.
Oh, the self-shaming.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
beat yourself up. Yeah,
Reinforcement on the
instead of
inside.
saying, to yourself, I'll get it next time. Or better yet, celebrate your small choices. Like, I did take a nap, I did take a walk, I did that. And I think so it can go in many, many ways. But even today, if I'm training teachers, and I say to them, and sometimes they just look at me, and this is a funny little rule, but it works. I said, fine, if you're having a struggle with a student, regardless of the age, I said 10 days in a row, and if you miss a day, start over. Find something good to say to that kid, whether it's, hey, I like your shirt, or good, I really appreciated you helping so-and-so, or thanks for coming in early. And the kid, if you do it for 10 days, it's not going to really change so much how you think about that kid maybe, but it will about how that kid thinks about you. And it's all positive. That kid's going to think
how
there's
that
a
kid
relationship.
thinks about themselves, 'cause
Yeah, a
something-
relationship and a connection and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So was that kind of what you're looking for?
Nailed. I just
All right.
love that you were like in a leadership position, and I would come from more of a place of as the boss of this situation.
Yeah.
And so I think that
Yeah.
gentleness was really struck a chord.
Yeah. I did have another question for you.
Sure.
It's sort of a personal question as someone who's been involved in higher education and continues to learn. Where do you see the value in higher education? I struggle with that back and forth.
How
as
much do we
a lib-
need the degree?
Well, as a liberal arts major
Yeah.
who came out of the world with a creative writing and journalism degree and no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you think
I-
of higher education?
Yeah.
And
Well, since I was there for a long time, I'm kind of a fan. However, I will say it's not for everybody, and I think it's so tragic when we have kids heading off to university or college or wherever, and they have no clue about what's ahead. And so, if they're fortunate enough to be on scholarship, they're not wasting their or their parents' money. But I think, and if you know deep in your soul, I want to be an engineer. You know it, you feel it, then go for it. But there's so many jobs that are open to us now. Many of them are, right through the computer screen. We don't have to have that higher ed degree that we used to think was so necessary. And now, even when you're hiring people, that's not even one of the things that's in the top 3 questions, which
Right.
is interesting. It used to be, what's their degree in?
Yeah.
What's their experience, that kind of thing. And that's no longer the case. If they look at experience first, they're going to look at if someone wants to be a coder or whatever, then what's your background, what you can do, and that sort of thing. So I think it isn't for everyone. And I think it's one of those things that, if you're having this talk with your kid and they're about to go off to college, I would say make sure, that you know what it is that you're into. And again, I think that, I know you're a sporty guy,
Yeah.
I think a lot of our kids, they think they're going to get this sports scholarship, and many, many of them do, but the focus is on the sports and not so much what degree am I going to get when the sports go away.
Absolutely. And now those athletes can make money too. It really throws a
Yeah.
weird wrench into
Yeah,
things.
it does.
It's been hard
Yeah.
to watch in our current moment with football season is happening,
Right.
and the semester for those college athletes that are looking to take their
Yeah.
sports to the next level, that they have many, not all, but what I would give to be able to inspire them. Stay excited, get your degree. This
Right.
is still going to be an unfortunately short run. And I love the passion, but it's hard. How do we, topic for a different time, get those
Yeah,
athletes
get those out
inspired
there, yeah.
to
Yeah.
have a plan for the next phase?
Right. And I think many businesses, your question is good, because I think businesses and maybe even higher education facilities are realizing that we got to get them in the high school. We got to get them early in the high school or even junior high and say, let's start talking about what do you want? And then, we prepare them with them taking the right courses in high school before university. But I think, again, world's evolving. And so the big companies, are saying, what do we want? What do we want the kids coming out to have, and how can we get them there? And a lot of kids are opting for different kinds of training. and not going
Training
the
and experience.
training experience and not going that route. So yeah, whatever works for you.
So inspiring those conversations, digging into it with your kids and finding out like what is that they can't stop. What can they
don't do
just
nothing.
jonesing
Do
about.
something.
Don't do nothing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lean
And I
into those
am
passions.
continually surprised with our 14-year-olds that have a pretty good handle on what they want to do, later on.
It's about clarity of that time.
Yeah, and it's not everybody. Years and years ago, it was, I want to be a professional football player. I want to be a doctor. I want to be, a fairy princess, or I want to be, which was never anything you would have thought about. And I'm the perfect example. I go to college. My first thought when I'm growing up is, what do I want to be? And I want to be
space.
I want to be a female professional baseball player. I want to break that, and that's what I want to do. And then, it took me a while longer to think, well, that's maybe not what I should do. And, where do you take those courses? But, I think our kids they're so aware because everything's at their fingertips now, good or bad,
Right.
sadly. Yeah, good or bad. But they know how to get information so quickly. And it's just surprising when I have a conversation with a 14-year-old how most of them are, they're kind of zoned in on this is what I not only want to do, but I think I can do.
Wow.
And that is what those employers are looking for, is that zeal, that zest for their little niche they carved out, as opposed to, it seems like the degree, to your point, JT, is like, you went to college, check. Like, it doesn't matter, fill in the bachelor of blank here, and less critical unless you are, like you said, committed to that engineer. That's my calling. Here we go.
Right.
Yes.
So another thing I'm curious about, as a career educator, was there anything that was a particular struggle throughout your career? Was there anything that you found to be extraordinarily difficult?
If she says statistics, she is way too smart for that.
The thought behind the question is like,
Yeah.
was there kids that had particular challenges that you saw over and over again? Or were there educators that you were teaching that really didn't pick up on what you were
doing, what you're laying down there? Yeah. You caught that whole middle school vibe I was putting down there.
Yes.
I mean, I think I'm always applauding teachers that choose to teach to that middle range. But I can't think of anything that was too hard. Statistics, I made myself do stat the right way. I was not going to fail stats. I was going to make A's in everything, and stat was going to be right there, But it's I don't think it was ever, coursework or anything like that in college. I think it was, if I'm really honest, it's trying to make teachers. And so this would be when I'm like at the, assistant superintendent level, and I'm trying to make teachers understand how that kids learn differently.
Yes.
And I have it's difficult, not just with teachers from foreign country, but teachers born in the good old US of A, that where the philosophy is, I stand, I teach, you listen, you learn, that kind of thing. And so I said to them, there's two avenues to look at this. And I said, we can talk about differentiation of the instruction and making it, fit different kids' needs. And I would hear sometimes, well, that's not fair. So the example I could say, so the kid that's in row 3 has asthma. Does he not get an inhaler? Because that wouldn't be fair to the others.
Right.
Or if I say, I have an allergy, can you point that out? What is it? What do I have? And they say, I don't know. And I said, well, it's the same thing with someone with a specific learning disability. You don't see it, but it's there. They're a bright, bright kid, but why are they struggling? And basically the feedback would be, well, that's not really my problem, because I'm hired to teach, not I'm hired to make sure everybody learns. So I think that was a big struggle. Yeah. And I have the perfect example of a teacher, and this was an elementary teacher. And so she said, she was listening, and I was talking about this differentiation stuff. And she said, I said, well, what do you do if your student doesn't get it? And she said, I give it to them again. This is probably a worksheet or something. I give it to them again. And I said, what if they don't get it then? The second time, she goes, I put it on colored paper. And I thought, Well, there you go. It's all about
I'm not thinking that?
it's all about the colored paper. But what she was missing was that somewhere in there she had the responsibility to reteach or to find out, maybe this kid's an auditory learner or a visual learner or whatever, but it's a responsibility of the teacher to educate, which to me says that means you got to come out of your lane and wiggle around and bring in all the people with you. And that takes a real dedicated and a very passionate person to do that for all kids. And I'm here to tell you it's exhausting, but the most rewarding thing ever. So yeah, that's probably where I struggle the most, is to getting people who say, I really want to be a teacher, but they really just maybe wanted the summers off. And that's not really, and that really wasn't, what I was looking for there.
That's so simple. Your job isn't to teach; it's to educate.
There you go.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the question is on everyone's mind, but since I was fortunate enough to have Dr. Patty Templeton Smith as my principal for kindergarten, first and second grade, the teachable moments abound. And we've already covered in the podcast when I drew her topless in the kindergarten drama man test. That's what you get. But one of my favorite moments is how you connected with the students. And obviously this is coming from a very youthful mind. But we had kindergartners through seniors, K through 12 in one building. And this principal worked the cafeteria. She checked on kids. She checked on their social lives, their vacations, their plans, their games, their papers, and she put in a soft serve ice cream machine.
Ooh, yes,
and
I did.
It was a quarter, I believe, or a quarter to get a cone. And if you were not packing your quarter that day, there was a little quiz she would engage and get your brain
what a great
active and give you a quarter. Go get your money. That was a great move.
But the beauty of that system is, it sounds like I'm trying to make some money, but the beauty of the money is that I put the quarters back into my pocket, and when I went in there, everybody that wanted ice cream that day got ice cream, because the question, and here's the beauty of making kids feel good in a relationship, you ask them a question they can answer, and out comes the quarter. So I get calls from parents, my kid is so happy,
Positive reinforcement.
I know, and they answered, what was my favorite color? I made sure that they had the ability to know that if you really want something, then here you go. Here we go. And then if I had a kid that I thought really maybe was messing with me, I said, I'm going to come right back around. So see if you're really hungry for this ice cream or not. But I never left the cafeteria unless everybody that wanted the soft serve got it. And the company donated it. And we did, it was a perfect recycling thing. So we used the quarters, we paid for the ice cream we can, and we still had all of this left over. Yeah, it was great energy. It was great energy.
It was a really well executed plan.
Well, on our platform, we talk about how important connection is. Tell me about connection in terms of education, because that sounds like with your ice cream plan that you valued connection. How did that serve you as a teacher?
Well, I think, if you think back, think about the teachers that you still remember. Their names are something that happened. And that teacher took a time to build a relationship with you.
Yes.
And I think that's all that truly matters. If you build a relationship with these kids, even if, when I was a principal, I had this great first grade teacher, and those kids, she was, pretty strict in a room, I would say, but when those kids went home at night, they knew the next day when they came back, fresh new day, and she met them with a smile, and every day was a do-over, because she let them know that she cared about them. So I think relationship building is number one, whatever you do. And you know that in the workplace as an adult.
Absolutely.
I felt it in university students. If I stayed after class to talk to them for a minute, if I gave out my personal number, just to build a relationship. I care about what you're going to learn. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you do that. So I think, really important. Any level.
Sort of starts there.
Yeah. And they asked me to speak to a middle school girl who had decided to, it's a different time in our world. And when I first met her, she was Olivia at the very young age. And now she'd become Oliver and was going through some tough times. And I just, maybe every couple weeks or so, they had asked me, hey, would you mind checking in with her? Which was, certainly not my job. I'm in a different director position, but it was something that I so appreciated. And the fact that this young girl could text me if she wanted to talk was, I hope, meaningful for her. It certainly was for me. And I'm happy to say she, transitioned into the middle school, is doing fine. And
that's awesome.
So again, relationships.
Right, and especially during challenging times in your life like that.
Oh, yeah.
Incredibly important.
JT's line, see the need, meet the need.
Yeah,
and
that's not
easy
my
fix to say, I can be there for you.
Yeah, it should be a bumper sticker. Yeah,
Oh,
should
don't
be a
get us
bumper
right.
sticker.
T-shirts coming.
Texas Christian University, that's who coined that. I'm sure that there is a bumper sticker. I bet
Oh,
it's
there we
bright
go.
purple too.
Yeah.
Well, this has been absolutely unbelievable, and I'm sure I'm going to be fielding questions and inquiries for Dr. Patty.
Yeah, we're gonna have a Dear Patty column.
Oh my
Exactly.
gosh.
Checking in. But we will
yeah.
look forward to having you back to talk baseball, more space camp.
Yeah, I
of
would
it.
love that. This
You've
has
got
been
stories.
so much fun. I appreciate you having. And again, what was I? Oh, I know. Number one.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being our first guest.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
And thank you for all of our listeners that are tuned in to hear this. I'm JT, and
And I'm Jordan.
all right. Thank you guys. Catch us next time.